maybe the best way to say it is I consider this piece, if any one piece has to represent what America is about, to me, this is the one. Because when it ends, it's this sound of cautious optimism. It doesn't exactly end in C major, does it? It ends indefinite with the two chords. So we're not sure what's coming next. And here in this country, we have no idea what's coming next. All
Maestro,
right,
thank you so
let's open it
much.
up.
This was incredible. And, having recently conducted it, and you were
I was
there
there.
to hear it, you know, this piece is always a revelation for every conductor. And you have given very clear guidelines and understanding how any conductor can navigate what are some of those technical challenges and tempo changes, and where you can have some little tricks to make things more effective. Because ultimately, as conductors, our goal is to help the musicians be as effective as they can be in being able to perform the music.
Well, let me
So,
one last thing before on that very subject. These days, you have to be efficient in rehearsals.
yeah,
Don't have as much time as we used to. So everything you say, everything you do with your gestures is all for the sake of getting to the music. And believe me, more often than not, as young conductors, you're going to run out of time at the end of the rehearsal if you're not really as clear as possible. It's all about time management. Rehearsal is just that for us now.
absolutely. That's a whole masterclass unto
Oh, it
itself.
is.
Maestro, I do have a question for you, because what I have experienced, I think I've conducted this piece maybe even 30, 40 times, but literally every single time I've done it, when the violas come in with the Simple Gifts melody, they're always too fast. They're always playing in one rather than two.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that?
I don't know.
Is there something in their parts? Have you ever encountered that as well? It's at 59, rehearsal
not
59.
well, it hasn't really popped up with. I'm trying to see why it might be when the violas get it. Well, maybe they don't hear the accompanying figure underneath
I
very
would
well.
have thought that they would have heard the harp, they would have heard the glockenspiel, the
Yeah, but think about it.
pianoforte.
The likelihood of those instruments being on the same side as the violas are is minimal.
That's right.
They're on the other
That's right.
side,
That's
and
right.
maybe one can help it a little bit by having the second violins play a bit louder, maybe. But yeah, I can see where that can happen. And remember, they've heard it. They've heard it in the clarinet,
Right.
where it is twice as fast. And
Right.
so perhaps they're influenced by that if they don't know the piece.
That's probably the answer. I know Creston, he gave a question. Creston, would you like to ask your question? You need to
Can you
unmute your microphone. There you go.
can you can you
Oh,
hear me?
I can hear you well. Where you're
Ah,
outdoors? Are you outdoors?
bro.
Man, are you outside?
No, well, I was earlier this morning. No,
Okay.
I'm in this kitchen now with my cousins. I had to do this
Okay.
remotely.
Okay.
So ask your question.
But so my question is, how do you keep your ears fresh? What strategies do you have for us for like young conductors to sharpen those ears?
I'm not exactly sure. If you're a young conductor, there will automatically be fresh because you're encountering much of this music as a conductor for the first time. So what happens with me, John mentioned he did it 30 times. I can't even tell you how many. Between this, American in Paris, and Barbara Adagio, I can't tell you which I've conducted more of the American music. I guess I I just remained inspired by great pieces of music. And no matter how much I can impart to you, for example, whenever I open the score again, I'll always find something I didn't notice before. Always, it's never ending, and maybe that's the secret for any musician. I have a phrase I use that there's no such thing as perfect in music, because if there was, why would we come back and do it the next day? Because we're always searching for something. And I don't even want to call it the truth, because that's not the right word. It's uh, there are two things that happen with me. One, I'll do the piece. Oh, I'm not a music director anymore, so I'm not going to repeat a piece with an orchestra. But when I did, it was always coming back to say, how can I make this better with the group that I've done it with? I mean, if you go on tour, for example, and do this piece and you're going to play it 8 times, how do you make it different each time? Well, you don't purposely do it. It's going to happen anytime. It's going to be that way. But if I see an orchestra that's never done it, I become the teacher of the piece automatically. And that's, so you're in two roles. You're always looking for how can I improve on what I did before? And two, how can I get this across? So in 2 weeks, for example, I'll be in New York with the Manhattan School, and we're doing an American in Paris. So none of these kids will have played American in Paris. And we're going to talk about that next week for those of you who are coming on. And there's so many questions. And now Appalachian is different. It's pretty well laid out in terms of the style and how we play it. But American in Paris, what do we do? Do we replicate the style of late 1920s, or do we change everything? Do we move the rhythms around? I think a lot of it is just the music itself keeps me fresh. I know it sounds like a cop-out answer, but it's the only thing I can think of. It is an interesting question, though. I think the time comes, if I ever walked out and went, I'm bored with this, I think I would stop conducting if that happened. I really do.